So I'm pleased to be joined with Brandon Alexander. You're a defensive back for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and you guys have a pretty busy schedule. You have a couple of the biggest games of the year coming up. You have the Labor Day Classic, the Banjo Bowl. So we're going to get into that in a few minutes. But, for you specifically, like kind of what has your journey for football looked like?
Well, it's always been anybody definitely can say it's always been like a difficult road and things, but I took the walk-on route. I was playing out of position in high school for about 3.5 years. I was playing defensive end, and I was like a buck 45, a buck 50 playing defensive end, So uh, then I walked on to UCF and had my opportunity there, and they put me at corner. They asked me though what position I wanted to play, and I said I wanted to play receiver, and they kind of looked me up and down. It was like, nah, you're gonna be a DB. So they just threw me back there, and I got an opportunity to play my freshman year, and played corner for the first 2 years, and then got moved to safety for the last 2 years of my collegiate career, and then didn't get an opportunity to do anything past that for about 2 years because I ended up injuring myself and couldn't really showcase, what I can do. So that set me out for 2 years, and then I had opportunity just to have a tryout with Winnipeg Blue Bombers in 2017, and that's kind of how I got here.
And I mean, that would be just an incredible story of just like kind of coming on as a tryout, a walk on, through college and now with the Blue Bombers. So, kind of what was that experience like? And how is that kind of, yeah, like looking back at that years ago and now seeing where you are today?
I wouldn't, if I had to start over and do it all over again, I would. I wouldn't change anything about it. I just think that it's just a different way of getting something done. The same way as anybody else would get it done. It might be a different type of road, and nobody's route is harder than the next person's. You have your own journey, your own life that you're going through. So this is your route. This is your journey. How do you make the best out of that situation? So if I had a decision of getting a scholarship out of high school or being a walk on again, I would do the walk on route. And I just think it's just a testament to the work that you put in, the work that you got to put in and keep going. And, looking back at it from today, it's just I appreciate, myself and obviously everybody else around me for being able to uh, help me push through and me staying down and pushing through all those tough times and things and getting to this point here. I wouldn't have thought that I would be year 7, year 8 in a professional football league now and still feel like I got plenty more years left on my body. So I'm just blessed that I got an opportunity to be able to showcase my abilities and then be able to prolong it even more to today's time.
Absolutely. Really just speaks to perseverance and work that you've put in and the people around you probably encouraging you every step of the way. I'm sure that
For
there were
sure.
ups and downs. There's probably some moments you wish that you didn't have to go through, but
For
it
sure.
really speaks to that. So, like I said, you guys have a couple big games coming up this weekend and next weekend, the Labor Day Classic, the Banjo Bowl. Those are two huge games.
Mhm.
Everybody here, and like I'm just new to Winnipeg, and I know that that's a big deal. It's already sold out here. So, as you're going into it, kind of what are you most excited for? What are you looking forward to for those two games?
Just for us specifically, it's for us to keep what we have going. The train doesn't stop moving, and it just takes one day at a time, and then one game at a time. And I'm just excited to go out there with the guys and lay it on the line for the guys, around me because they put in so much work and effort as well as I do. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to. Another thing I'm looking forward to is, especially this game when we're going into Labor Day weekend. That crowd over there is amazing. Like every seat gonna be filled. It's gonna be loud. It's not that loud when we're on the field because we play defense. They got to be quiet for their offensive team. But you can just go out there and all you see is just like a sea of green. You got the spots where you'll see the blues and everything. And I'm pretty sure though they had to tailor down how many tickets that they give to the Blue Bombers because I mean I firmly believe if we were able to buy half of the tickets in that stadium, we would. It would be half green, half blue, you know. But I'm looking forward and excited to go out there and just, look at the faces of all the green, and we're in enemy territory and being able to go out there and prevail. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Obviously, next week is next week, but we're excited about 2 days from now, and being able to get on that plane and handle business.
Absolutely. I'm sure like the atmosphere is going to be absolutely electric. Just hopefully you can silence the crowd a little bit. I don't know how well that's going to work, but hopefully that they'll get quiet down a little bit. But I mean
For
also
sure.
it's a battle for first place too. So it's not even just like a big game. It's like stakes are on the line.
Well, I mean, in the beginning of the season, like every year has their own trials, and you got to be able to prevail from those trials that you have. So as far as this year, we started off the season 0-4, and then but nothing really changed at all. Like we didn't change our process of coming to work or how we came to work, what we do when we came to work. All those things like that. We just kept the process. Sometimes like that's that's how football works. Like in the beginning, you may get hit with starting off the season bad. You may get hit with maybe a couple of injuries, plays. You may get hit with a whole bunch of things that you don't really have any control of. And you can only do two things. You can either lay it down and just have to see the season continue to wither itself away, or you can keep getting up and coming to work and keep chipping at that armor and making sure that the more that you do, the less that those things are going to happen. And now we found ourselves in a situation where we just have an opportunity to control our own destiny. At the end of the day, and that's what anybody wants in football is be able to control your own destiny. We have no control over, oh, this team's going to win this week, this team is going to lose this week. We don't have no control over that. All we have control over is what are we going to do when Sunday happens and we step on in that field and we're ready to go. It only takes one game at a time, right? You can't win this game and all of a sudden have two W's on the standings. It's only one game, so you have to take each game as it is. And so we found ourselves now in a situation where we can control our own destiny and what we do. So that's all we ever want.
Absolutely. And, so besides football, you have some other stuff that you have working on. You also make music. You have a couple EPs, you have an album out. So I'd love for you to just kind of share, like, how did that happen? Was that always like another dream? Was that something that you wanted to do and you see kind of progressing into the future?
Yeah, so I've been writing since about 2010, 2011, and I didn't take it seriously in terms of like getting into the studio and actually trying it out until COVID happened, and then COVID happened, and I just had a lot of time on my hands and seeing of what am I going to do now? I didn't know if football was going to be coming back, at that moment. I didn't know if anything else was going to happen. So I was like, you know what? COVID happened. It seems like the world is going down in shambles right now. Let me just try something out and see if I can make something happen, make something shake, and something that I care about, and I care about music. So I dove into it and uh, ended up coming out with two EPs and an album, from that. Each year I was able to do something. So like in 2021, I came out with an EP, and then 2023, I ended up coming out with an EP earlier, and then I ended up coming out with an album later on in that year. Um, and it just shows like the amount of group that goes into it. I definitely for a moment, I definitely thought that like I was gonna be one of the ones you get in the studio, you make this song right here. Oh yeah, it's gone, and then it doesn't work like that. I found that you have to find your voice, and people ask like, oh, what does that mean? Well, you it's in podcasting, it's in radio station, it's in uh, on TV, on movie sets, all those things. Like finding your voice means like you're comfortable with hearing yourself. You're confident in what you're saying. You're and that has like that on that voice, if that makes sense. So when you're talking on the podcast, yeah, you can clean it up a little bit with reverbs and things like that. You can clean it up, but if you don't like have that conviction in your voice and what you're talking about. Like it doesn't, you haven't found it yet. And so the album that I came out with is called Passion. You know, I finally figured what I wanted to sound like, how I wanted to go about it. And you know, I was very proud of that album. And yeah, it's just that's what I've been doing. And I am definitely looking forward for the future of what's going to come. I haven't did much of music lately. Um, when football has definitely been like
Main
top
focus.
tier, main
Yeah.
focus, but also I have a family of my own now. You know, I got a 6.5 month old son. You know, and a fiance. So just trying to be able to piece all this together first, and then once everything starts to have its moving well oiled, then I could be able to dive back into it. But I'm excited to get back into it because I got a lot to talk about, I got a lot to say, and I do feel like the next project that I put out is going to be um, worth waiting for and worth airing.
And kind of speaking of projects that you've done, you've gotten to work with Fresh IE, which CHN listeners are familiar with. So kind of how did that come up?
Yeah, so in 2023, TSN gave us the opportunity. It was like, yeah, we're gonna have you work, you know, with an artist from Winnipeg, and I didn't at that time I didn't know who he was or anything like that, and I ended up getting to meet him at the studio, and we did our song together. It's called For the W, and TSN did a whole spill on it. They did from like the recording. They did a phenomenal job. I didn't even think that I didn't know how the video was going to come out, and they had this feature right before the Grey Cup us versus Montreal that year, and they had this whole thing, and it was just amazing to see how all that came into fruition, and even afterwards. Uh, Fresh and I, Fresh and I started to hang out a lot, and get to talking and things like that, and it became really a good friend of mine, and I appreciate having him because the talks that we have and everything like that is just, finally I finally knew what the purpose was for. It wasn't for us to come do a song together. It was for us to have a good relationship, but it also brought me back to where I needed to be aligned with God and everything. So I'm very appreciative of that, and he's definitely helped me out a lot. We had good times together, and yeah, that's my guy.
And I mean, speaking of like just like your busy schedule and you have so many different things that you have working on football, then you have the music and having like just your own life and everything that you have going on. How do you really make time for your relationship with the Lord?
Well, I do feel like so on day twos of our practice, Lauren comes in and we have Bible study, and we have so anywhere between 5 to 25 guys that'll show up sometimes and be able to just fellowship, in there, and that's been a big part of how I stay in tune because honestly, like you can get lost into what you're doing on a daily basis, especially when it's kind of like it's on autopilot. Like when you're playing football, like you're on a schedule. Okay, this is how you do this. Boom, boom, boom. All right, you got this day. You got to do this day. You got to do this every week. You can get lost in that. And then once you're done with that, it's like okay, you got to turn that off, and then you got to get home. Okay, now it's time to be a family man. You got to be home and you got to do all these things. So like life just can get in the way so fast. And then, but what's good about the schedule is the fact that Lauren has this moment in the midst of it, and it's like, oh yeah, I do have to do this. Oh yeah, how do I forget? And uh, I'm just glad that he's been around since I've been around, been with the Bombers for a very long time, and so it's been doing a phenomenal job with us, and that's one way that it keeps it going is that we have that every day, and then before or every week, and then before games we have chapel as well. Being able to go out there in the mornings at a certain time and be able to hear the word before we actually step out on the field as well. So yeah, that's really that's how it happens.
And how beneficial is that really? Like, because I'm sure that before a game, let's say your emotions are probably heightened, you're running on
Hmm.
adrenaline. So then to have just kind of like this grounding is like, okay, this is kind of the bigger picture. How important does that play into your game, even?
Well, it's huge because it happens well before the game though. So let's say like the game could be at 5:30, and then we may have chapel in anywhere between 10 and 12 o'clock. So it's well before the game, and when you get up, that's all you kind of really do think about is like, all right, this is the moment here. This is what we're waiting for and everything. But then again, you have that moment of, well, this is what life is about. This is how you go about it. At the end of the day, all these things that we're given, you know, uh, we're allowed to be here because of what God has done for us. He's given us a platform to be able to glorify His name and everything. So this is the reason for it, and so that brings us back to perspective of everything. So it's very important that we have these set times and things that we can go in and be reminded of that.
And kind of touching on that, but like how has it really strengthened your faith? Like, do you notice a difference that if you maybe don't go to it before, or if something changes, like is how has it strengthened your faith, would you say?
It's made me more aware. I'll say that for sure. It's made me more aware that I need to be able to put him first and be able to be consistent in that. You know, um, and once football is done, doesn't mean that that's done at all. Football is just one part of life, but the word, God, and everything else in that spectrum is forever lasting. So you have to be able to continue that, and that's been the most important thing for me is to be able to be consistent in it. And this year I have been very consistent in uh, waking up in the morning, and then I have a partner and I that we go in and we'll read the Bible in the morning every day before we step out on the football field. Then on the day twos we have Bible study, and then on Sunday, I mean not on Sunday, but on game days, whether away or home. Not so much home for me, but definitely in the away games that we have Bible study the day of the game. And I've been very consistent. I haven't always been consistent in that, and also had a couple of things that happened to me throughout my life that reverted me uh, back to him. And it would be like a slap in the face if I didn't, because it was clearly noted, clearly in my face that I'm calling you. You know, Here I am. Come. And if I would have said no, it just would have been a slap in the face. I couldn't deny it. So consistency has definitely been big for me this year, and I definitely had a lot of guys that's been helping out with that as well.
And how beneficial would you say it is to have, like, whether it's teammates or coaches or just people in your own life that you can encourage and that they can encourage you as well in your faith?
Yeah, it's big because again, times can get busy, life can get busy, and they can revert you back. They can get you back in it. There have been times in where I wake up in the morning and I didn't want to do much. I didn't want to do anything. And then my guy walks in there, my counterpart walks in there. It's like, are you ready to go read the Bible? Ready to start it off? I feel like I can't say no, So we do that. So it's great to have partners in crime to be able to do those things, And I'm very appreciative of those guys. I'm appreciative of the coaches that does. I'm appreciative of my friends on everyday life that are in that as well. Because again, life gets busy. Once you get to adult status, like you're starting to work in the real world. Like life happens. But um, you have time to stop and think. And then when you make those phone calls and when you have those conversations, we get to that point every single time. And then another thing I didn't know that at first about Fresh IE. I didn't know that he was a Christian artist. And the more I got to talking to him and the more I heard his story, and was very amazed at his story. And then now I understood like why I met him and why we started to hang out together and everything. And I was like, wow, I feel it now. I understand, and he's helped me convert back and get back to me being on the right path, or at least starting to get in that right direction.
And going back to the chapel, you are the chapel leader for the Bombers. So what does that mean? Like, is that a different role than others, or like what does that mean?
I can't necessarily say that it's a different role than others. I feel like since I've been here, I've been still doing like the same things as far as going to chapel and speaking when I need to, speaking when I don't. But what was different though was Lauren ended up having to be away, and uh, I had to do the chapel in front of everybody, and it's different because even though these are my guys, and we go to battle together, I was still nervous. Like maybe it's like the first time of you stepping out and doing your job for the first time, whatever that you do. Like you know what you're doing, but you're doing it in front of everybody now, and you don't want to be wrong. You don't want to seem like you don't know what you're talking about. You don't want to be stuttering and things like that, right? So that was a little bit different, and then afterwards, after everybody came to me and said I did a phenomenal job, but they made it easy for me too, though. Like they were very interactive with me with questions and answering and everything like that. So that was the one thing that was a really big difference, a big change about being a chapel leader. And I also think what changed about that is I felt like I had to do more for myself, as far as getting into the word for myself and being able to, like I said, just get back into it. Like I've always been a believer. I've always been there, but this year's like really one of the first years that I actually really dove into uh, really trying to dissect the Bible and talking to fellow believers and everything. So yeah, I think that's what the change is.
And if you said this is kind of the first year you're really diving in, was there a specific moment that kind of changed and was like a switch for you, or was it just like, okay, I just need to kind of get back on?
I mean, I think those happen throughout the years. Um, I've had an instance this happened to me in 2016 at a gas station. I had an instance that's happened to me in 2021 at my drive up here, coming off of basically the COVID year, and then football season was getting ready to start, and I had to drive up here. I had something happen to me there that was uh, undeniable. And then even this year with starting the family and everything, just like a lot of things that's happened in my life, I feel like are moments of me getting back to doing this and doing it on a consistent basis. And yeah, I think that's the answer to that.
All right. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today and kind of sharing a little bit about your faith, football, music, everything, and excited to see what, music comes from you and how the Bombers do the rest of the year.
I appreciate you having me, and thank you for allowing me to share a little bit of my story and everything. And great platform, by the way.